Using words like apotheosis, ephemeral and heliographed, you could be forgiven for needing a dictionary to fully enjoy his works. Oh yes, it's Stephen King time. Hello and welcome to this mashup of Tuesday Newsday features and Kay's Recipe for Disaster. I'm Kay and this is Ruben.
Hoi! You might be a fan or you might not be, but Stephen King has undoubtedly had an impact on our lives and of many across the globe. We all have that story of the first time we watched the scary movie or read that book that made you put it on the nightstand face down so that it wouldn't freak you out in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
How many people of our generation would hire a clown for a child's birthday party? No one. Thank you, Mr. King.
No, and my personal favourite, drains, flushing toilets and plug holes. Yes, it took me years to get over those.
Here I am, Wheezy.
So what's his story? Stephen King was born in 1947, the second son of Nellie and Donald King. His parents divorced when he was a toddler and he was raised by his mother. By his own account, she was a self-sufficient, funny, slightly nutty woman who worked hard doing whatever job she could to provide for them. Stephen and his brother were not the easiest boys to raise. They once blew an electrical transformer, cutting power to their own and an adjacent apartment block, trying to build a huge homemade electromagnet, of course.
After a period of illness as a child, Stephen King wrote his first short story, all 4 pages of it, about a group of superhero animals who drove around in a car helping little kids. The leader of this little tribe was a large white rabbit called Mr. Rabbit Trick, and Stephen King showed it to his mother. She liked it so much that she paid him a quarter for it, and we're so grateful that she did.
Yeah. Stephen King describes the moment that she told him that his story was good enough to be in a book, in his not quite autobiography called On Writing, Memoirs of the Craft. He said, "Nothing anyone has said to me since has made me feel any happier."
God, I love you.
That tiny spark of possibility eventually led Stephen King into a career that is truly remarkable. To date, he has written 59 books and 2 screenplays, and since then a lot of his work has been used in TV and film.
Yep, 25 TV shows and TV movies, 42 films. Wow. He himself has made 21 TV or movie appearances. He's won 65 awards and been nominated for countless more. And guess what? His wife, Tabitha King, is also an author.
Yeah.
So for the next little while, we will be celebrating all things King. Check out our review. I'll put a link somewhere of The Dark Tower. There's a link in the description, as I said. And coming up soon, we'll review the iconic It and compare it to the new reboot of It coming out in September 2017.
And currently Netflix has a Mist TV series which you could check out. It's very different from the director Frank Darabont's version. But for now, we're going to stick with the horror genre that Stephen King loves so much, and I'm going to show you how to make this fake fun Festering Wound. It's been so long since we've done one of these, so I think it's time for a recipe for disaster.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Okay, now can we do a thumbnail pose?
Okay.
Scary. What else?
I'm hiding.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to start with the usual latex warning. Please do a patch test before you use liquid latex on any skin, just in case the person that you're using it on has a latex allergy. So we're going to start with just applying a bit of latex onto the skin so that we can stick our latex mold down. It was a really, really hot day when we filmed this, so the latex was drying so quickly I had to put loads on, but you generally don't need to use quite as much. The mold that I'm using I actually made months ago. It's really, really super simple, and I'll put a link in the description to the video that shows you exactly how to do that. It's just a little bit of liquid latex and some ordinary baking flour mixed together, and then you just let it dry. And there you have your wound mold. Right, once you've applied latex all over it and you've got it nicely stuck down and it's dried, you can start applying a foundation just to try and colour match. We had a little difficulty with that, so I've skipped over that because I used 2 or 3 different kinds of foundation till I found one that matched. So once you've matched it, you can apply a little bit of Bloody Rose from the Miron Bruise Wheel or just lipstick, and put it into the depressions, the hollows where the where the wound is. Now I'm applying some congealed blood. I made this using the liquid blood that I had, a little bit of chocolate syrup and some powdered gelatin. I just mixed it all together, heated it up in the microwave, mixed it again, and then let it cool down, and then you pull it apart and it makes this lovely textured gelatin sort of congealed blood. I found that it wasn't sticking too well, so I stuck it down with a little bit of liquid latex. And now I'm putting in some mashed banana. And no, you can use all sorts of things. It makes a really good sort of disgusting pus. Well, you get the idea. I also rolled up a little bit of icing sugar with some water to make little maggots. You could probably use cooked rice as well. And then you need to apply a little bit of texture and a little bit of bruising and grazing to the outside of the skin around the wound. So just using a stippling sponge and your bruise wheel, start off with the brown and then just work your way with the other colours. I imagine that a wound that is already sort of festering and pussy and disgusting with maggots in it would be quite old. So if you are going to use some bruising, you will probably want to add in a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow to your bruising as well, just to make it look older. With the inflammation, you probably could kind of go wild with the red colour as well and just make it quite inflamed looking. When using a stippling sponge, always less is more, so rather build it up in layers than putting too much on your sponge and ending up with a big block of colour. And now we're going to add some blood. This is just a very simple recipe that I use very often for edible fake blood. I'll put a link in the description below, and I'll try and put a video at the end as well so that you can just click on it and go to it. I have some really good videos on how to make blood, 3 different kinds of blood. So you pour the blood on and then you just stipple it around with your sponge and get as messy as you like. This is the bit you can just have fun with. And there we have it, a really oozy and disgusting, pussy and maggot-filled wound. Perfect for Halloween. And that's the first way that you can make yourself a lovely gory wound. There is another way that I'm going to show you, and again it starts with liquid latex. So you just apply a thin layer of liquid latex onto the skin. Then you apply some tissue paper and stick it down onto the liquid latex. Apply another sheet of tissue paper onto the other side, so that you end up with a gap in the middle. And that's where your wound is going to be. Use quite a lot of liquid latex, just sort of stick it down fairly liberally between each application. So it goes liquid latex, tissue paper, liquid latex on the top, and then another, you let that one dry, and then you do more liquid latex, another layer of tissue paper, liquid latex, let it dry, and again, liquid latex, tissue paper, liquid latex, let it dry. And you can do as many layers as you like. I think in this one I did 4 layers, but I'm only going to show you 2 of those because it's a bit boring just to watch that. Once your final layer of liquid latex is fully dry, you can also use a hairdryer just to carefully blow on it, just to make it speed up the whole process. But it was such a hot day, it only took about 5 minutes for the whole thing to dry. Using some nail scissors, be very careful not to injure the person that you're working on. Make a little bit of a hole where you want the wound to be, and then you can actually just use your fingers to open that hole up, rip it along. It'll tear pretty easily where there isn't any tissue paper, and that's what you want. That's the idea. So you've got a fairly jagged opening of a wound, and then you're going to take your bloody rose or just some lipstick and paint the inside a nice deep red colour. It gives you a good base to start from. Then you take a little bit more liquid latex and just get a nice blob of liquid latex going on in the middle there. And now I've taken some yarn or some wool and I've pulled it apart so that it's individual threads, and it just gives the most wonderful texture to your wound. So stuff it in there, put a little bit more liquid latex in to make sure that it really stays there. But you'll have all these little fibres and bits, and it just gives such good texture. And while you're waiting for that to dry, you can go ahead and apply your foundation just to try and colour match the latex to the skin around it. Once you've done that, I used some more of my lovely congealed blood that I made in the microwave using just a bit of liquid blood, some chocolate sauce and some gelatin. It's really, really super simple. I only used about a teaspoonful because you don't need much. So you stuff that into your wound. Oh, and it's already starting to look disgusting and wonderful. And then with your stippling sponge, just go around the edges of your wound to give it some texture, to give it some grazing and some bruising. And also inflammation, obviously, because it's an old and manky, disgusting wound. As I said before, less is more, so just build up the layers slowly so you don't end up with big blocks of colour. And here comes the banana again. I'm just using my fingers to pull out bits of banana and sticking them in the wound. Oh, it just makes it's so quick and easy to make this. I mean, you can make pus out of custard powder and Vaseline, but banana's just so easy. Of course, it's not going to stay yellow for very long, but even when it turns brown, it's still slimy and disgusting. So there you go. And there's another little fake maggot for you made out of icing sugar. And now you can pour your blood in, get a nice amount of blood into your wound. And then using your stippling sponge, just make it messy. The messier the better. There you have it. A really disgusting, oozy, festering wound. So simple, so easy to do. I hope you have fun making them yourself. See you again soon.